Hi, this video is about AGI within 18 months, question mark. And AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. And what triggered this video was this guy's video, David Shapiro, one of my favorite AI YouTubers, just favorite YouTubers in general. And he talks a little bit more about kind of the technical computer science aspect of it. Sometimes he fires up Python and stuff and runs some tests. But he's really thoughtful about it, and he's focusing on this very heavily and thinking about it a lot. And so I think his opinion should be taken extremely seriously. But there's an important point that he makes in this video with regards to what is AGI? What does it really mean? Is it even a good definition? And in quick summary, I'll put a link to this video. I definitely recommend you watch this video in full. If you're at all curious about, will a supercomputer take over? Will it take over the world? What does that look like? What does that really mean? And so I think he defines it more as like a supercomputer that can act in a lot of ways that involves, that would look like thinking. This is kind of my interpretation of what he said. And he gives a different term for it that's different, but also that's different than kind of AGI. He kind of approaches it from different angles. There is an important point that he makes there that I was thinking about, but I wasn't sure if it was correct, and he confirmed it, which is that in some ways, GPT-4, what it's doing is it's just kind of regurgitating words back in patterns. It's doing pattern recognition, and then it's reading in your patterns and it's regurgitating patterns. To that degree, it's not thinking at all. That said, it appears to think, and at some point, if something appears from all angles to be thinking and acting like a thinking being, then act like a duck, quack like a duck, walk like a duck, you're a duck. And so there is some of that here, where it's like maybe we don't even fully understand what it's doing or how it's working, or we fully understand how it's working and we know that it's really thinking, not really thinking, it's just kind of running these patterns. But when you interact with it, it appears in every single way to be, essentially human-like, like superhuman-like in a specific way. And I think one point that he tries to make here is hopefully the don't panic point, which is that it is very unlikely for the AI to raise up and destroy us. I generally agree with that. I think he admits that there are risks, and but just anything has risks. We have nuclear weapons. You drive in a car, even though tons of people get into car accidents and die every year. So the idea that it has to be risk-free, I think, is kind of silly. Not really a very thoughtful way of thinking about it. This is a really, really good the video on kind of the theory behind it, and then he goes into some of his how he plans on contributing to it, which is interesting and has mostly to do with the memory of it, but it has a lot of implications for AI in general. That's really what I read into a lot of it. There's a lot that he says that applies in a bunch of areas beyond what he says. Again, I highly recommend it. I watch every single one of his videos, almost the day they come out, because his stuff is really awesome, and it's directly relevant for me as I'm trying to understand AI at a deeper level and see where the lines of potential business opportunity are. As he gets deeper into the video, it gets more and more technical, but I'm going to switch to talking about what is, do I agree, or what are kind of the factors of deciding or figuring out if how reasonable this is, and what it means for AGI. What does it mean when we get AGI? And he does go into this in some of the video, and I'm going to try to expand on this. So first, let's go to the Turing test, which I think is a very useful starting point, but that isn't holistically complete. And I think that right now, if you test the GPT-4 with the Turing, and you have somebody who where you're running the Turing test, that it passes it almost, not completely, but a lot of the time. A lot of people would have no idea that they're talking to GPT-4 if you were to hide it and pretend to be a human. Okay, so in that way, it appears to be intelligent. And what does this mean? What are the implications of this? And is this really a good test? And I think one of the answers is that it is a good test and it isn't a good test. It's kind of on both hands. At some point, if something appears to be intelligent, like I said earlier, from all angles, then you kind of have to treat it as it's intelligent, even if you know behind the scenes that it's a bunch of zeros and ones. Okay. On the other hand, I think it's an incomplete test as well, and it's not really like it's one of the tests that you would want to see if we are at AGI, or kind of like a super intelligence that is, is it sentient? He points out in his video, David does, that hey, actually, it kind of doesn't matter if it's sentient if it appears to be sentient, and that's actually kind of a reference to the Turing test. It's a little bit different. And I tend to agree in a sense, although I think that there is a point where we can potentially check for sentience. I don't know exactly what that would look like. And I haven't really thought in detail about it, but I do think that sentience is kind of part of the implied definition to some degree with AGI, although it's not necessarily explicitly in there. I think some people, and the part of the problem is that there's a million different definitions for this. Nobody has like the definition, and that is because nobody knows what this exactly looks like yet, because it hasn't happened, and there's just so many different forms that it could take on. So if you envision, let's say, like GPT-7. So he's theoretically speaking about GPT-7, but if we envision, let's say GPT-7 is kind of considered to be an AGI, what does this look like, and what does this mean for people? There's an important point here that I'm pretty sure I'm correct on, which is that even with a generalized intelligence, that doesn't mean it's going to do everything. I think that there is going to be tons and tons of room for thousands, hundreds of thousands, who knows how many, custom large language models that fit a specific niche really well. And maybe it's not just large languages, just AI models in general, made for specific scenarios, specific use cases. An example would be AI in surgery. I think there will be, like, let's say some company, if I was in healthcare and I knew a lot about surgery, I would consider making an AI model that focused on doing surgery, maybe even one type of surgery at first. The very first, the most common type of surgery that is maybe on the lower risk side, do that first and build the model around just that. And get all the data. I mean, imagine how many gallbladder surgeries are there per year? 300,000 of these annually. All right. So let's say this is on the simpler side. I don't know if it is or not, but point is, let's say this is the first one you could choose. There might even be different models for different types of surgery. Maybe ankle surgery is a new model. Maybe it goes down to, you think about how many different types of doctors there are. Each type of doctor could have its own AI model. You think about that, that's thousands of, maybe it's not thousands, I don't know, it's a lot just for doctors, just one area of expertise, and you kind of expand that and you envision why I think it will be better to do that. And even if they're not as powerful, having a very narrow context, especially again for like a surgeon, you don't want some random comments on Reddit to influence where a surgeon cuts, right? That doesn't make sense. You don't want that anywhere in there at all. And part of this is that, like, GPT-4, they're just like crawling all the data, and yeah, they're trying to kind of eliminate some or reduce the effectiveness of some and increase the value of some, and they're doing reinforced human learning. And there is a chance that GPT-4 could potentially at some point, or GPT-37 at some point, could do like everything. I think that there's also a chance that never happens. At a minimum, I think that we're going to go through a time where even if GPT-7 is sentient or whatever, or AGI, that we will see a rise, and practically so, of specific case study models. And I'm actually working on one right now. Tell you about it in probably a couple months or something. So basically what I'm suggesting is, if you're of the entrepreneurial mindset, then this would be the path I would recommend to anybody. Pick some model where you see a big niche specific or whatever value that you can add, and just go for it, and with the cost of building a model dropping rapidly. And if you're the first one out there, even if you're not the first one out there, even if you have a good one, maybe that's good enough to create tons of value and therefore pay you off big time. But there's another point here that he doesn't cover at all that I hear a lot of people, see a lot of articles about, like, well, how does this affect like the work environment? I think I should shoot a separate video for this, but I'll give you kind of the highlights, the high level of that right here. And to be clear, I think that understanding the economic patterns and implications of AI is one of my strong suits, or at least I think that I understand this a lot better than a lot of other people, even a lot of people who understand AGI at a better level. And so my estimate is that AI right now, like at some point very, very soon, we're going to look back maybe in 2 years, and AI will have soaked up so much of the economy while adding value overall, but actually decreasing equality, because the people who adapt and who are adaptable and who adapt and grow with AI are going to be rewarded greatly. And then the people who eschew it, who decide, it's not going to affect me, or I don't care, or I'm not going to learn new things, those are the people that are going to be not hurt by this, but they're not going to gain. At a minimum, they're not going to gain, and potentially they're going to get hurt. So for example, like this, let's say some guy built the best model for gallstones or whatever, and that was all it did, but it did it really, really freaking well, better than any human on the planet. Then what does that do for all the surgeons out there? Do they have jobs anymore? I think a large amount of them might not actually, or they're at a minimum, their job will change. This is definitely going to be true for a lot of people. Your job will change with AI, almost certainly. And ironically, a lot of this technology in the past has taken out the low-skilled labor. This is the first one where it's actually targeting more the high-skilled labor. The lower-skilled labor and the more physical labor will take longer and will be safer at first. But ultimately, I think it will come for everything, pretty much. I'm not sure there's any area of significant human endeavor that AI will not affect and amplify, and therefore the people who leverage it and use it are going to benefit from it greatly. So, I wouldn't say don't panic, but I would say be concerned and take action based upon those concerns. So, that's a lot of people maybe this seems to some people just like, Bitcoin and blockchain. It is not. Bitcoin and blockchain never really convinced me that they were of significant value. Bitcoin I think could go to $1 million, but it also could go to zero. I think that's a reasonable chance. Also with the additional costs. Getting a little bit off topic, and so point is, you kind of are going to need to learn how to learn and learn how to adapt, because this stuff is going to come at you fast. And if you think it's not going to touch your job, you're probably wrong, or eventually you'll be wrong. Again, the more physical labor, like I think plumbers are safe for now, and like woodworkers, and again, the kind of the lower skilled, more in-person labor typically is fine. But I know a lot of people in the medical field, doctors are probably, most of them are probably like, I'm fine. But they'll realize, they'll see it in a year or two, no more than 3. It'll be obvious that our need, it's unclear if our need for doctors will go down so much as we'll be able to help people more, and we'll actually still need the same amount of doctors because we were just understaffed. So that I don't think that their usage will, their value to society will drop to nothing, like a lot of people think. And to keep in mind that even with the super intelligence, there are still humans required to run all of these things. And so, become the best expert in your field plus AI, and that gives you the best chance of surviving, because a lot of these jobs are going to go down by 90%. Well, that still leaves 10%. How do you get in that 10%? You get in that at 10% by focusing on being really good at your specialty, and then studying up on how AI affects your specialty as well. So I should shoot a whole other video for that. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe if you like this and want more content. Have a great day. Bye.